Alright, so this is our last video of Unit 13, and it's also the last logarithmic property we're going to talk about until we get to solving in Unit 14. So here we're talking about expanding and condensing logarithms. So there's three different rules. There's the product property, the quotient property, and the exponent property. It is irrelevant what they're called. I'm not going to ask you to tell me what the name of the property is. However, I am going to ask you to use it. So the product property says if I have a logarithm with two things in there, an m and an m, if I want to break that one log into two logs, I add. So log of m times n equals log m plus log n. So if you multiply the inputs and you want to break them up, you just add. The quotient property is the opposite. If we divide the two inputs, when we break them up into two, we're going to subtract. Exponent property doesn't happen all the time. We will see it. If we have a logarithm raised to an exponent, we can drop that exponent out front. When I say expand, you're going from the left side, a single logarithm, to the right side, multiple logarithms. Condense, you're working backwards. Condense, I'm going to give you multiple logarithms, and I want you to write them as one log. Okay, so there's going to be a million examples. I'm going to work fairly fast because if you rewind, if you're on YouTube or Edpuzzle, if you wrote the rules down, this is hopefully straightforward. If you didn't write the rules down, go back, write the rules down, then come back to me actually doing the examples because I'm going to go kind of quick. Okie doke. So log of 4x. I have two inputs. I have a 4 and I have an x. They're being multiplied. So if I want to break these up into two separate logs, I just write log 4 plus log x. 4x are being multiplied, so when I bust them up into two different logs, we add. The one to the right of that is log of 4 over x. So I have logs being divided, or inputs being divided, so when I break those into two different logs, I'm going to subtract. That's it. If they're being multiplied, add when you break it. If they're being divided, when you break it up, subtract. Okay, third one. Oops. What in the world? I don't know why my pen's freaking out. There we go. So log of 3 x squared. So I have two inputs. I have a 3 and an x squared. So I'm going to break these up. Log 3 plus log x squared. But there's this third property we talked about called the exponent property. And for expanding, we're basically done. We had two inputs being multiplied, so we broke it up into two different logs. Log 3 plus log x squared. But to be completely expanded, we do want to remove the exponents. The third property said that if you have an exponent of a log, you can bring it out front to be a coefficient of that log. So it's log 3. Log 3. Then we're going to bring this 2 out front. And that's it. So if we're expanding, you're going to take the exponent and bring it to the front. So number 4, about as bad as I can make it without throwing 3 variables in there, but even then that's not too bad. So log x to the 4th divided by y squared. I have two things. I have an x to the 4th and I have a y squared. They're being divided. So since they're being divided, when I break this into two logs, I'm going to subtract the logs. But I have an exponent here and an exponent here. So I'm going to take these exponents and bring them out front. So this is 4 log x minus 2 log y. So if you have two inputs being multiplied, when you break up into two logs, add. If you have two inputs being divided, when you break up into two logs, subtract. If, after you do that, you have exponents, bring them out to the front. Okay. So, this is the opposite. It's condensing. So, the first one, I have log 12 plus log x. So I know I'm going to condense to one log. I have two things. I have a 12, I have an x. They're being added, the two logs. So we're going to multiply the inputs. The second example, I have log 9 minus log x. So I have two logs. There's a subtraction sign in the middle, which means when I combine these, I'm going to divide the two inputs. If there's two logs being added, you multiply the inputs to combine to one log. If there's two logs being subtracted, you divide the inputs to combine to one log. So a little trickier. 3 log 2 plus 2 log y. So on the last one, we said if we have an exponent and we're expanding, we want to grab that exponent and move it in front of the log. When we're condensing, we want to put the exponents back. And I know this seems silly, but when we solve, this stuff will actually be relevant. So the first thing we're going to do is the numbers in front of the log are going to go back as exponents where they came from. So the numbers in front of the log should actually be exponents, so we're going to put those back where they go. Then, after I do that, I have two logs being added together. Log 2 cubed plus log y squared. So when I combine those or condense those to one logarithm, since they're being added, the inputs get multiplied. The last thing is 2 cubed, we know, is 8. So instead of 2 cubed, I can write 8. Hopefully you see that. So 2 cubed is 8. So 3 log 2 plus 2 log y condensed is log 8 y squared. So if the two logs are being added, when you condense to one log, multiply. If the two logs are being subtracted, when you condense, divide. Okay, so this one, start off the same. This 2 out front, actually they both have a 2. But this 2 out front should be moved to an exponent, go back where it belongs. So I have log of 4 squared minus log x squared. I have, this is, well first, 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to rewrite that. I know I'm in Doceri, I'll move up. But that says log 16 minus log x squared because 4 squared is 16, so I can rewrite it. And then I have two logs being subtracted. So when I condense, since the two logs are being subtracted, I am going to divide the inputs. So it's log 16 minus log x squared. So when I condense those to one log, we divide the inputs. If the third example, right here, we had two inputs being added together. So when we condensed, we multiplied. So add, multiply, subtract, divide.